My name is Rachel Perkins. Welcome to everyone to our Survive and Thrive webinar series. I'm the Education and Outreach Specialist for Texas Oncology Foundation. If you are a cancer patient, caregiver, or professional and want to educate yourself about the cancer world, we invite you to subscribe and join us every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. We are so glad to have you all with us today, and we are excited to hear from Dr. Zuniga discussing holiday resilience, thriving through cancer's challenges. But first, I'm going to give you guys an intro of the foundation. So the Texas Oncology Foundation is dedicated to providing support to cancer patients in the communities where they live, work, and receive treatment. Through Survive and Thrive programming, the foundation can provide educational events and resources to help build community connections and support all affected by cancer. Now we get to introduce our speaker. We have Dr. David Zuniga, who is a licensed psychologist in his own private practice in Austin, Texas. Previously, he was a faculty member in the Integrative Medicine Department at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. He earned his master's degree in comparative religion from Harvard and worked as a healthcare chaplain for over a decade. He also holds a master's degree in English literature and has published widely and spoken internationally at leading academic conferences on many dimensions of spirituality, wellness, and healthcare. So Dr. Zuniga, we are so thankful to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. And thank you everyone, the participants, everybody who's logging in. I'm genuinely honored to be here. And I'll just share briefly a little bit about my journey. Yes, as Rachel shared, I started off as an interfaith chaplain in oncology. Now I work as a psychologist in oncology, and both my mom and dad had cancer, and I was a cancer caregiver for them. And just personally and professionally, I'm honored to work with the Texas Oncology Foundation and to be with all of you during the holidays, which can be a rich and complex time as we're talking about. So, as Rachel shared, and as you all know, the title of this talk is called Holiday Resilience, Thriving Through Cancer's Challenges. And so what I want to do for a second is I'm going to test my technological prowess and see if I can do a screen share with y'all. Fortunately, I have Rachel to help out. So anyways, but I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share for just a second. And hopefully you all and I'm going to make this a little bigger. This is a definition. So if we're talking about holiday resilience, let's have a definition of what resilience really is. And this is from the American Psychological Association's Dictionary of Psychology, which, by the way, it's a great resource. It's free online. If you just Google American Psychological Association's Dictionary of Psychology or Psychology Dictionary, it'll pop right up and you can find all kinds of great information. Positive psychology, wellness, coping, stress, things on depression or anxiety, things like that too, things related to oncology, being a caregiver, being a patient. It's just a kind of treasure trove of information free right on the web. I use it all the time. And for our talk, I looked up the Americans. Let me see if I can make this just a little bigger for everybody. I looked up the American Psychological Association's definition of resilience. I'm going to read this to you all, and I'll put it in the chat in just a second. It's also, of course, available online. And I'll be using this definition by the APA as kind of a model for our talk on holiday resilience today. And by the way, please do. I just love partnering with the Texas Oncology Foundation, meeting all of you. Please, as Rachel said, feel free to put your thoughts, questions in the chat. We love to hear from you. And as she shared, we'll do some Q&A time at the end, but I'm just delighted to be with you all today. So here's the American Psychological Association's definition of resilience. And I'll repeat this. The process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. A number of factors contribute to how well people adapt to adversities, predominantly among them the ways in which individuals view and engage with the world, the availability and quality of social resources, and specific coping strategies. Psychological research demonstrates that the resources and skills associated with more positive adaptation i.e., greater resilience, can be cultivated and practiced. So I'll read that one more time. Resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. A number of factors contribute to how well people adapt to adversities, predominantly among them the ways in which individuals view and engage with the world, the availability and quality of social resources, and specific coping strategies. Psychological research demonstrates that the resources and skills associated with more positive adaptation, i.e., greater resilience, can be cultivated and practiced. So I love this definition. It does occur to me personally that it feels a little kind of nerdy and technical and academic. So we're going to break this down. And I'm going to go ahead. I'll put it in the chat. And okay, so it's in the chat. So hopefully you guys can see it there. And I'd like to break it down for you now and talk about that. So when we talk about resilience during the holidays, the first thing you'll note is that it's talking about adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences. The first thing is this is an audience of cancer patients, cancer caregivers, and cancer survivors. I think you already have a PhD in adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences. And that might be a framework just to approach what we're talking about with the holidays and life in general. When you think about your cancer journey, either as a patient or a caregiver, what were things that were helpful to you or not helpful to you as you had to adapt to the new normal of your cancer journey? And if you can think about the things kind of dwelling on reflecting on your past that were helpful or not helpful for how you wanted to be in your cancer journey, some of those things might be applicable as we talk about coming into the holidays, which we're already in. And one of the things I love about the APA definition of resilience is they talk about external demands and internal demands. And I like how they break that down. When we think about the holidays, and let me say up front, just a little personal sharing, I love the holidays. I'm one of those nerdy people who decorates my lawn with like way too many Christmas lights and buy way too many Christmas presents. And I definitely go all in with the kids on the holidays. I have a lot of fun. And I find the holidays can be really exhausting and sometimes stressful, and they can push my buttons. And I'm a psychologist and a minister, and I find this stuff tough. And so it's okay if you find this tough too. It's okay. And so the APA definition of resilience talks about external demands when we think about resilience. I do think just kind of facing the challenge. There's a lot that's great about the holidays. There's a lot that's joyful, peaceful, spiritual, healthy, and even transformational about the holidays. And it is worth noting that every world religion, every culture, I think, has some type of holiday, ritual, memorial service during this time of year, during the kind of darkest, coldest time of the year. Every religion, every culture has something about cultivating gratitude, renewal, community, presence, spirituality, tuning into family and community during this time of year. I do think there is something universal about it. And there's a saying in Asian philosophy, samsara and nirvana are one. One of the things that means is joy and suffering can sometimes exist together. And when we think about external demands, sometimes while I do love the holidays, I always like, especially for my own patients and my psychology practice, I always feel for people because there can be almost this kind of unstated or stated kind of cheerless conformity of compelled happiness, I would say, around the holidays. You're just expected to be happy. And it's certainly good to be happy, but we may not always feel happy, especially if you're a cancer patient or you're a cancer caregiver or a cancer survivor reflecting on the long journey you've been. You could have compromised immune systems. You could have fatigue. When you go through cancer treatment, unfortunately, there can be a lot of expenses. And all of those things can come up at the holidays where we're expected to go, go, go. There's this kind of relentless drive. It's funny. I think just in it was either the Washington Post or the New York Times today, there was an article on how to survive travel fiascos during the holidays. And I thought, oh my goodness, because the holidays just put a lot of demand on us. Also, and I think especially uh, relevant to the cancer community, is the kind of question of anniversaries. We have our cancer anniversaries in the cancer world, and when you got your port put in or taken out, when you started chemo, this line of chemo, that line of chemo, radiation, when you first got diagnosed, or scan anxiety, these kind of things. And so the holidays are kind of this memorial ode to joy and peace, but they can kind of rub up against difficult anniversaries on our cancer journey. So there's these kind of external demands. And as the American Psychological Association points out, we also want to think about internal demands. Internal demands. This is, are we putting pressure on ourselves? One thing we like to talk about in psychology is what we call automatic thoughts. Um, just like an athlete has, and you can tell I'm probably not much of an athlete if this is my imitation of an athlete, but just like an athlete has muscle memory in their body, we have muscle memory effectively in our brain. There's a great saying in psychology: neurons that fire together wire together. We get in patterns of thought very, very quickly. And if we're not careful, especially during stressful times, we can have what we call negative automatic thoughts kick in very quickly. There's a trigger from our environment. Um, you know, Whatever it is, some kind of stimulus, something on Facebook, something on Twitter/X, social media, a neighbor, something in the mall when we're Christmas shopping. We see something and it can generate positive or negative thoughts, and we can get kind of triggered or hijacked or waylaid very, very quickly. And our thoughts, if we're not careful, they can be kind of like a snowball rolling down the hill, gaining speed. So one thing when we think about internal demands, I do think it's a common challenge. We'll say negative things to ourselves that we'd never say to other people. And we can do that around the holidays too. When our environment is stressful, our negative automatic thoughts, our negative conditioned thoughts, are that kind of negative rehearsed cell track that's like if you're my generation, you might know this reference, an 8-track tape that just kicks in very quickly. And so, one thing, my friends, that I ask all of you, I invite you during this holiday season is we talk about compassion for the world, let there be peace on earth. All of that's very good, obviously. But let's work on cultivating some internal peace, some internal harmony. And let's think about, what is your self-talk during the holidays? Get some practice just listening to yourself, tuning into yourself. And like you might do with your kids or your grandkids, your spouse, your friends, your significant other, you might think, what's going on with them? Do the same thing for yourself. I bet you're going to spend a lot of time this holiday season, maybe buying presents, maybe you do some volunteer work, whatever it is. You'll think about other people and how to make them happy. What would it be like if you thought about taking care of yourself and making yourself happy a little bit? We give gifts to others. What kind of a gift could you give to yourself? And so when we think about this definition of holiday resilience and internal demands, just start kind of paying attention to yourself and listening to yourself. And what kind of negative self-talk do we have during the holidays? And the American Psychological Association definition of resilience, they talk about successfully adapting through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjusting to external and internal demands. We talked a little bit about external and internal demands, but let's talk about mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility during the holidays. And don't forget to put your thoughts and questions in the chat. When we talk about mental flexibility, I'm really glad that the American Psychological Association mentions that mental flexibility. And I do like to, when I think about mental flexibility, I like to distinguish, especially around the holidays, the difference between values and goals. Goals are very good. We think about goals all the time. Your goals might be, I'm going to get all my Christmas shopping done by the 13th, which is tomorrow. Did you feel pressure as I said that? Don't feel pressure. But where we might say, I'm going to get the Christmas tree decorated this early this year. Or I'm going to get, if you're like me, I'm going to have a great holiday light display on my lawn, or we're going to go to church on Sunday, or whatever is the goal. We have lots of goals. Goals are great, but goals are not the reason for the season. Our values are the reason for the season. And when I say values, it might relate to your spirituality, or it just might relate to you being in the world as a human during the holiday season. When I use the term values, what I mean is our way of being in the world. When you're looking back on the story of your life, what do you want your life story to be? Your values are the kind of indivisible things that matter the most, that fill you up. And it's good to think about our values all the time, especially during the holiday season. I'll share a few of my own. One of my values, I'm a dad. I've got two amazing teenage daughters. Uh, and being a dad, honestly, is probably the most important thing in my life, quite frankly. I value being a parent. My mom is a cancer survivor. She has Alzheimer's now. And another important value in my life is taking care of my mom. I'm a minister, and one of the most sacred things in my life after taking care of my daughters and my mom is my meditation practice. Um, those are some of the things that are sacred to me. Those are some of my values. And it's worth taking a second and thinking, what are your values? Like as a cognitive exercise, let's just take 30 seconds. You can jot down some notes if you want. You can share in the chat if you like. No pressure. But not in terms of goals, which are finite, discrete moments. I'm going to I'm going to get my Christmas shopping done by Saturday. I'm gonna, cook a delicious Christmas turkey or, whatever it is. Don't think about goals. Think about how you want to be in the world. If I was going to say, let's go west, well, we live on a round planet. You can go west the rest of your life. And that's the way values are. Values are not goals. Values are not a destination that you arrive at. Values are your journey, how you exist in the world, what your life looks like, what fills you up, what matters to you. Let's just take 20 seconds or so. You can journal, write down, put a note on your phone or in the chat. What are some of your values during the holiday season? And as you're reflecting on your values, I like to think as a psychologist, values are actually a method of behavioral change because values are kind of like the light during the dark night of the soul that can help sustain you, that can help keep you going. They can give a signpost through difficult or complex times. And I like to share this idea too of values, especially during the holiday season, because as it's been observed before, it's easy to lose sight of what matters most, sometimes, especially during the holidays. you know and so I think about when I think about values, I like to talk too about the idea of acceptance, because we throw that term a lot around during the holiday season. We throw the term acceptance around a lot in spiritual circles. I say that as a minister myself. um, you know I want to be clear. Acceptance doesn't mean everything's hunky-dory. Acceptance doesn't mean we never feel difficulty. Acceptance isn't like a lot of holiday Christmas specials. Um, Acceptance takes gumption. Acceptance is enduring. Acceptance is bringing ourselves back to the path again and again and again. Knowing that we're all imperfect beings, myself included. Acceptance means we are value-based. We do our best to be value-based, and we focus on what matters most. Things may not always be fun, but they can be purposeful. They can be value-based. And so when you think about this holiday season, think about what matters most to you. You know, we can get caught in kind of the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, and it's easy to get sucked into that. What do you actually want your holidays to look like? What will fill you up? What will be enriching potentially about this holiday season? When you're thinking about the story of your life and what really matters, how can these holidays fit in? And so the American Psychological Association talks about the mental aspect of resiliency, and it also talks about the emotional aspect of resiliency. Let's do another quick kind of psychological exercise. We'll just take 10 seconds, but I want you to kind of get your body comfortable, slow your breathing down, and just take a moment and start visualizing some of the likely events that you'll experience during the holidays. Visualize some of the traditions you have, some of the things you'll likely do by yourself or with others, with your family, friends, by yourself, maybe some of the things you'd like to do, or some of the things that will or could unfold. Just take a couple seconds as a psychological exercise and imagine those things, and then notice what kind of emotions are you having? Or kind of reflecting on past holiday seasons and some of the things you would often do. What emotions would you have? What emotions come up for you? One thing I like to think about our emotions, our thoughts and emotions work together in our cognitive functioning. They're similar, complementary processes, but they're not the exact same. Our emotions are a part of who we are. They're not the totality of who we are, and neither is our thoughts. There's a great psychologist, Marsha Linehan. She talks about the emotional mind, the cognitive mind, and then the wise mind. Our thoughts matter. And we were just spending a few minutes ago talking about automatic thoughts, and how we're conditioned to have certain thoughts and kind of being aware of our thought patterns. Um, but also, let's be aware of our emotions. Our emotions matter too. And Marsha Linehan uses the term wise mind when if we integrate our emotional self and our cognitive self, and we're aware of both of those, allowing both of those to manifest, then we have the wise mind where we draw on both. I'd love to talk about emotions, and not just because I'm a therapist. Our emotions are unique. Our emotions are creative. Our emotions are an important part of our existence. Our emotions are also kind of our psychological immune system, in that our emotions are like data. And I always encourage people to pay attention to their emotions. We may or may not want to act on our emotions, but our emotions matter and they're telling us something. For example, when you think about the holidays, what kind of emotions come up for you? When you think about the things that you've done in the past during the holidays, what kind of emotions come up for you? When you think about the emotions for things that you're likely to do this holiday season in 2023, or maybe some of the things we've already had Thanksgiving, some of the holidays that you may have already had or experienced. What are some of the emotions that you had? How do you feel about those emotions? And so our emotions are kind of our psychological immune system. You know, if we're having some emotions, that's our brain telling us something. That's our brain telling us something. Maybe we need to slow down. Maybe we need to be kind to ourselves. Like I said earlier, we focus on gift giving for others. What would be giving a gift to yourself that would be really, really precious, that would make a difference for you this holiday season? And so maybe this holiday season, one thing we can do is we can get practice listening to ourselves, get practice paying attention to our emotions, paying attention to yourself, just like you'd pay attention to a good friend, a family member that you really, really care about. Get practice listening to your own emotions and being kind to those emotions. You may or may not want to act on them, but we do want to be aware of them. We've got over 80 billion cells in our brain. We can often experience many different emotions about the exact same event, and that's okay. That's normal. So, one of the ways to skillfully work with our emotions is to cultivate awareness of our emotions. And when we talk about holiday resilience, as the American Psychological Association points out, we talk about the mental, we talk about the emotional, we also talk about behavioral flexibility. Behavioral flexibility. And I think that's a great thing to think about. There's a style of counseling that I really like in psychology called motivational interviewing. And motivational interviewing is all about helping people change. People want to quit smoking. They want to have a healthier diet. Maybe they want to take up a marathon or something, get more sleep, whatever it is. Um, Work on our anger, go back to school. If we want to do a thing, a change in our life, one style of counseling that's very research based and good is what we call motivational interviewing. And it's a very research, and it was motivational interviewing actually was developed initially to work on substance addiction, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, which substances are addicting because they're hard to, get over. They're very entrenched behavioral patterns. And so motivational interviewing was originally cultivated to work with really deeply formed behavior patterns that are resistance to change. And it's really a great way to help people change. I love it. But one of the things in motivational interviewing that's kind of brilliant and counterintuitive is they'll use the word slips. So I'll give a quick example. Let's say, and I know this is a cancer community, but let's say somebody's trying to quit smoking. Smoking is a very hard thing to quit. Just research wise, it's a hard thing to quit. And most people, a quick story, my dad, he was a lifetime smoker and he smoked through his first two bouts of colon cancer. And then my sister, who's 10 years younger than me, we went out for her birthday, and my dad said, what do you want for we went out for my sister's birthday, and my dad was like, Kathy, what do you want for your birthday? And Kathy goes, I just want you to quit smoking. And he did. And that was the last time he ever smoked. He threw his cigarettes in the trash. That was it. Most people don't quit like that. Most people, if they're going to change any behavior, we're going to take up and run a marathon or learn a foreign language or whatever it is, most people will have a few slips. They're stressed. They got too much going on, didn't get a good night's sleep, some trigger from our environment, and we'll have a slip. And so when you have a slip on your behavior change path, you do the thing that you're trying not to do. Instead of beating up on yourself, use it as a learning opportunity. Use it as a way to deepen your knowledge and get back on your path, back on your value-based path. We all make mistakes. To err is human. We all make mistakes, including myself. When you have a slip, which is the term they use in motivational interviewing, when you make a mistake, as we all inevitably do, how can you bring yourself back? So when we think about behavioral flexibility during the holidays, just know you're not going to be perfect. And that's okay. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. So give yourself a little grace. Give yourself a little compassion and forgiveness. We're it's a busy time during the holidays. We're all imperfect. Give yourself a little spaciousness because we all make slips occasionally. And kind of listen to your emotions, your thought patterns on how we can get back to our values that matter most during the holiday season. And when we think about behavioral flexibility too, let's do a little behavioral analysis. I think I may have said this earlier, but when you think about the holidays, there will be Christmas shopping, or there will be decorations, or travel, or people coming to your place, or you going there, different stuff. I think sometimes one of the challenges of the holidays is we work too much in our society. We're go, 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 go. There's a lot of research that supports that. And then all of a sudden, December rolls around, and we're like, hey, now we're going to make up for lost time, and we're all going to get together and have awesome times. And then there's more pressure, you know? So when you think about the holiday season and you think about your values and you think about the things that really matter in terms of your being in the world, what helps you be in the world during the holiday season, the way you want to be in the world, or what hinders you being in the world the way you want to be in the world. For myself, like I said earlier, I was talking about values and I mentioned my spiritual beliefs and my meditation practice. If I meditate, I'm a better dad. If I meditate, I'm a better caregiver for my mom. If I meditate, I'm more in the world the way I want to be in the world. If I don't meditate, then I have a little more difficulty. I'm not as skillful a Dave as I want to be in the world. You know, if I get enough sleep, I eat a fairly healthy diet, I have more energy, I can be more cognitively and emotionally present. You know, when I focus on my values, when I pay attention to my emotions, for me personally, these are things that help me be in the world the way I want to be in the world. I don't want to just get caught up in the expectations of society during the holidays. What are my values? What are your values? And what helps us adhere to our value-based path, or what gets in the way of that? And I do want to say too, there's an idea in psychology, it's the idea of committed action. We're talking about behavioral flexibility. Um, when we want to have a behavior change, like, well, we want to try and lower our stress during the holidays. I like that. And one way to have a kind of committed action to take a step in a healthy direction for yourself is to just think of one thing you can do. It's kind of like that old saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Um, this holiday season, you may not be able to take a 3-week trip to Hawaii to do a yoga retreat. That's not my holiday season. It's probably not your holiday season either. But what is one little thing you could do for yourself today, or this week, or during this holiday season? What's one thing you can do for yourself? I remember I was talking with a good friend of mine who was an oncologist during the pandemic, and he was very, very busy. And he felt, a lot of love and compassion for his patients and also a lot of stress. And I said to my friend, um, I was like, hey, you're stressed during this pandemic. It's such a hard time working big hours, all this kind of stuff. Maybe just go in your backyard and take 5 deep breaths. Just do that once during the day. Is that going to fix all your problems? No, probably not. But just taking a little moment to do a little mini meditation, or a little mini contemplative prayer, or one yoga posture, taking one moment is a step in the right direction. Just finding little ways to integrate self-care into the fabric of your day. And the more you can do that, the more it will add up and be transformative to the overall tapestry of your day. And I do want to take a moment. Rachel was very kind and introduced me, and she did mention I used to be, I was a tenure track professor at MD Anderson, the University of um, Texas at MD Anderson. MD Anderson's both a cancer hospital and a research university, and I was in the integrative medicine department. And the only reason I mention that is because it's the idea of integrative medicine is very, very relevant for what we're talking about today, resilience during the holidays. In the oncology world, which all of you are familiar with, you have all these research-based forms of care, radiation, surgery, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, hormone therapy, all these different things. Life-saving, obvious, good interventions. There's all these alternative treatments that you've probably heard of. Some of them have legitimate research showing their efficacy, especially for cancer patients and cancer caregivers, sometimes even improving treatment outcomes. So at least at MD Anderson, if there's some alternative treatment that actually has a lot of substantive research behind it, we call it integrative medicine, and we integrate it into traditional cancer care. So for example, some forms of integrative medicine, i.e., some interventions that are not traditional cancer care, like chemo, radiation, surgery, but have documented research benefits, include needle-based acupuncture, massage therapy, art therapy, music therapy, meditation, mindfulness, and other forms of meditation, movement practices such as yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, all of these things. Again, art therapy, music therapy, massage therapy, mindfulness and other forms of meditation, movement-based practices like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. Those things are research-based specifically that can be beneficial for cancer patients and cancer caregivers. And I will say a second, we want to make sure we have plenty of time for Q&A, but when we think about the mind-body connection, people will be like, "Oh, is there a mind-body connection?" Of course, there's a mind-body connection. If the mind and if the brain and the body aren't connected, we've got bigger problems. They are connected, and it's a bi-directional feedback loop. In other words, whether you're happy or sad, if you're happy or you're sad, you're using certain parts of your brain and you're producing certain neurotransmitters that are associated with positive or negative states. Those neurotransmitters, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, adrenaline, cortisol, they will have a trickle-down effect on the rest of your body. Rapid heart rate, insomnia, skeletal muscle tension, shallow breathing, decreased oxygen, or the converse, better oxygen rates, muscle relaxation, less muscle tension, better ability to endure pain, behavioral flexibility like the APA is talking about. And so your brain will have a trickle-down effect through your central nervous system on your body, but your body can have a percolate up effect on your brain. In other words, things like meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, anything that's good for the physical body, 9 times out of 10 is going to be good for your brain as well. And these physical practices will have a percolate up effect on your brain. So I just want to offer that because taking care of your body is taking care of your brain, and vice versa. Taking care of your brain is a way to take care of your body. But let's start thinking of behaviors that we can participate in during the holidays that are good for our mind, good for our emotion. And I will say, in terms of behavioral flexibility and values too, don't be afraid to say no sometimes. When we say no to one thing, we're saying yes to something else. Maybe you say yes to your values. Maybe you say yes to slowing down. Maybe you saying yes to taking care of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, you're also taking care of other people. And you are worthy inherently, purely because of who you are, to be taken care of. So do something nice for yourself this holiday season. And thank you for joining us at this talk with one of my favorite organizations, the Texas Oncology Foundation. Thank you so much,
Oh,
my friends.
thank you, Dr. Zuniga. I appreciate that time with you today. And we will go ahead and open up our questions. I'll go ahead and start off. Feel free to put the questions in the chat or put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. I'll go ahead and start off the questions because I know it can be a little nerve-wracking asking the first one. So the first question that I had from you when we were discussing moments that you create for yourself, like prayer, yoga poses, or meditation, or maybe all three, I was thinking about, because you're surrounded by family and sometimes it's hard to take that time away or step away during the holiday season, how would you possibly invite people to do these moments with you? Or how would you try to take a step away in order to do these types of things?
Great question. The first one is just, it's okay to say, like when I'm hanging out, so I'm a single dad, and when I hang out with my kids, I'll tell my kids, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go do my meditation, and I'll invite them to meditate with me. Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. And that's okay either way. There's a saying in Asian philosophy, there's no shame in the Sangha. Sangha means community. There's no shame in the community. It's either like, and I used this phrase earlier in our presentation, it's either helpful or not helpful for how we want to be in the world. So another idea I like to think of is you give with an open hand, not give with one hand, take with the other. You just give with an open hand. And so, I like during the holidays, and everybody just knows about this about me, I like to meditate. And so daddy's going to get his meditation time, and that's okay. My daughters are named Aaron and Rory. Aaron, what do you need? Rory, what do you need? Like bringing up self-care during the holidays is a great thing to talk about. I say just bring it up directly.
Yeah.
Great question. I know there's a lot for us to talk about, and I'm speaking kind of briefly because we don't have much time, but it's a great question. Yeah. And be proactive, because really, this brings us back to values. What do we want our holidays to look like? What really matters?
Yeah, especially if that's one of your values. I was just know some people can get uncomfortable around family and being like, oh, well, I need to go take this moment to pray because what you just said, I need a moment.
Well, and also, I mean, the holidays are often a spiritual time, right? So let's go give ourselves some spiritual time. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we did have someone in the chat say, thank you, Dr. Zuniga. You've given me so much to contemplate. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Okay, so I do have another question for you, and I'm not sure how deep we want to go into this, but I know in the cancer realm, sometimes we hear the word cortisol and we're not like 100% what it is. Sometimes it's like cortisol shots you get for pain management, and then sometimes it's something that's coming from your brain. So would you mind just elaborating a little bit more about, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How do we create it? You know?
Oh, great question. Well, and let me say up front, I'm a clinical psychologist, not a neuropsychologist, or an oncologist. So when I use the phrase cortisol, I'm talking about a stress-related neurotransmitter.
Okay.
That sometimes can be, and this kind of gets into what we call our fight or flight mechanism. That sometimes, so another kind of truism you'll hear in psychology is stress is not always a bad thing. A little stress is good. Stress helps us build what we call mastery. If you have a little bit of stress, it'll kind of stretch you and help you grow and be creative and achieve new things. A little bit of stress is okay. It forces us to grow and be better people. And there's a saying in philosophy, salvation lies in the middle way. Little stress, good. Like in sports, an athlete will have a little stress. You're doing like that's not bench press, that's curls, but bench press or curls. But you're doing your exercises, you get a little stress on the muscle and the muscle grows healthier. Too much stress can be debilitating. So a little cortisol, it can kind of boost us neurologically to if you're like me, put up a ton of Christmas lights and get it up quickly. Too much cortisol and you're having a panic attack. And so that kind of brings us back to the idea of let's pay attention to our bodies and let's pay attention to our emotions. How are we feeling in the moment? Just like we pay attention to other people during the holidays, let's pay attention to ourselves. So yeah, so I'm talking about cortisol as a neurotransmitter, which sometimes can be a pretty stressful thing, at least biologically. Great question. Great
Yeah.
question.
So we'll give people just a couple more minutes to create
Yeah.
questions. I do have another question. In the beginning of your presentation, you talked about creating values. And I know for some of us, it's like, I don't know what my top 3 values are. I don't know where to start, how to create these. And I also know that values change. Like before you had daughters, your values were different, right? So I'm just wondering, my question
Yeah.
is, how do you create these values and how often do you check in with them to make sure those are still your values?
Wow, that's such a great question. Say that one more time, Rachel. It's such a rich question. I just got
How do
excited.
you it's okay.
It's all right.
How do you create your values, and then how do you check in with them to make sure that they're still your values?
One way I like to think about values is what are the things that fill you up inside?
Hmm,
What are the things that are most important? So for example, I kind of did a little exercise with myself as I was preparing for this talk, and I was kind of thinking about what are my values? And and so I'll just a little personal sharing. So I mentioned my mom had stage 3 breast cancer. She survived. Now she has Alzheimer's. And so I was reflecting and I'm my mom's medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, because she has Alzheimer's and she can't take care of herself. And I was kind of reflecting on that. Um, Super personal note, my dad just died fairly recently. And so my dad was caring for my mom. My dad died. Now I'm her medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney. And that actually kind of relates directly to your question, Rachel,
mhm,
which is I've always been my mom's son. I've always loved my mom. But now I'm her medical and financial power of attorney. Our
mhm.
relationship and our lives have shifted. And
Yeah.
so I was kind of thinking that I try to practice what I preach, and I was thinking about this talk and values. And so this morning I spent a few minutes, I kind of meditated, thought about my own values, and I was like, you know what? Taking care of my mom is one of my values.
Yeah.
So, and that's a shift. I mean, I've always liked to take care of my mom, but now it's a very formal thing. And so, you make a great point, Rachel, is our values will shift as our life path shifts. So what I like to do is I like to just invite people to reflect on their lives.
Mhm.
When you're looking back on the story of your life, what do you want your life to look like? And ask yourself these questions when you're trying to think about your values. What matters most to you? And what fills you up? Like my kids and my daughters fill me up. My meditation practice fills me up. What fills you up? And what fills you up during this holiday season? Great question, Rachel. Great questions by everybody.
Okay, and then just a little shameless plug for you here. Where where can people find your meditations? What are some good examples to start meditating? I know that you've told me the Calm app before is a good one.
Oh yeah. And I apologize, Rachel, and everybody in attendance. I was gonna put in the chat. I'll do this now. Um, let's see. Um, so real quick, I'll just give a little a plug for the idea of meditation. I'll just say one of the reasons I love meditation is some or contemplative prayer, either one. In some ways, contemplative prayer, this is a big topic, but contemplative prayer is just meditation with an overtly spiritual focus. By the way, there is some really intriguing research on the benefits of contemplative prayer, and there's definitely a lot of research on the benefits of meditation, but there's some great things about contemplative prayer and developing attention control, for example, neurologically. There's some good stuff like that we can just kind of measure objectively around contemplative prayer. Uh, I'm into
That's
the
so neat.
integration of spirituality. Yeah, I'm into obviously former chaplain, went to divinity school, now psychologist. I'm into integrating spirituality and psychology. But anyways,
Yeah.
one reason I like meditation is or contemplative prayer is that they are research-based forms of self-care. And something about meditation and another great thing about meditation and contemplative prayer, especially during our busy holiday season, is you can do meditation or contemplative prayer anytime, anywhere. Oh, and I apologize. I think I posted those just to hosts or
That's
panelists.
okay. I
Sorry,
just
Rachel.
fixed it for you. I added it in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. But yeah, you can do meditation or contemplative prayer anytime, anywhere, for any period. One other thing I'll say is people often think, oh, I'm no good at meditation. I get distracted too easily. To which I say, no, no, no. You're actually probably way better than you think you are. Anytime you slow down and you relax, and in a very normal, healthy, natural way, you kind of lose yourself and just become part of the process. That's a form of meditation. And if you get distracted, great. You've got over 80 billion cells in your brain. Of course you get distracted. To be distracted is part of the human condition. Good for you for noticing it. Just bring yourself back. And in that practice of bringing yourself back, you deepen your practice. Rachel posted, I think I listed some, my website has about 2 hours of free, totally free. You don't need to sign up for an email list. There's no cookies tracking you. Videos of guided meditation, including one specifically for cancer patients. And then I also put just now in the chat some meditation apps and timers that I use. And that I think there's free versions and paid versions. But those are some pretty good ones too, that you can check out. And yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. So we're going to go ahead and stop taking questions now, and we're going to kind of close out our webinar today. We just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who was able to join us today. You will be receiving the recording of this so you can share it with friends and family during their holiday as well. And just a reminder that you will get this in a follow-up email, so it will be sent to all registrants. And it will be available on our Texas Oncology Foundation website, which I'm actually going to share with you guys now. Okay, so when you get to this main page here, you're actually going to go to education. We're just going to give it a minute to load. Okay, and then under education, we have Survive and Thrive webinar series, and that's going to actually show you what we have going on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. So it has upcoming webinars, it has previous webinars. We have Intimate Connection at End of Life right now is one of the ones that we're highlighting. We just saw Holiday Resilience, Thriving Through Cancer's Challenges, and we will be doing a holiday meditation that you can share with your family and maybe spend 20 minutes with. It's pre-recorded with Dr. Zuniga, and I know if you heard him today, you know that his voice is so relaxing, and he's just really good at walking through meditations. So we highly suggest that you register for this one so that you get notifications for when it gets posted. And then for January, we have Wellness with Cancer, Mastering SMART Goals for Lasting Well-Being. So if you're someone who likes to make those January goals, those January New Year's resolutions, this is a good one for you because it's how to create SMART goals that will actually go past the first 2 to 3 weeks of January. So those are some things that we suggest that you guys share with us. Come join with us. We also have support groups. We have Caregiver Connections, Caregiver Survival, Grappling with Grief, and Mentors and Meetups. If you've joined us for any of our education programs, you are invited to join us for Mentors and Meetups. This upcoming Mentors and Meetups, we are doing cross-stitching in February. It's online and in person. So if you want to get one of the free cross-stitching kits, then feel free to come with us. Feel free to register with us, and we will send you one of those as well. So that's just some things that we have coming up program-wise. We also ask that you guys like our Facebook page and stay current with our foundation there as well. And lastly, we actually value your feedback and would love to have you guys fill out this survey that I'll put in the chat now. So give me one moment to put that in the chat. This will also pop up on your screen when you exit out of this webinar, and it will be sent in an email to you just as a reminder. So just take a moment to fill out this quick survey. It takes less than 5 minutes. Let us know what you thought about our topic today and our speaker, who we think is amazing. And any suggestions that you may have for us in the future. And that is all I have for you guys today. So I hope we got some of your questions answered, and I know we'll see some of you guys on December 26th for our meditation then. So thanks, everybody.